breaking news kind of plots what we're going to be talking about today, which is finding your
Home buyers
yeah.
are extremely negative on the availability of housing in the country at this point, with 68% calling it non-affordable and only 6% of young Americans saying that housing was both available and affordable, according to CNBC's latest Generation Lab poll. Joining us right now is Danielle Hale, Realtor.com's chief economist. And Danielle, I have to say, it's not surprising to hear this from this group of them because the numbers are pretty horrific. I couldn't believe how much money you need to make in the top 10 markets to be able to find housing. And it's not unique to just those top 10 markets. What's happening?
Yeah, so this isn't a new phenomenon. We've been talking about the undersupply of housing for the better part of the last decade. We can see that relative to pre-pandemic levels, housing is down 36% when we look at the for sale market. So there are 36% fewer homes for sale, and home prices have gone up by about a similar margin, 36%, combined with higher mortgage rates that buyers are facing right now. Those higher prices mean you need to earn over $100,000 in 34 out of the 50 largest metro markets to buy the typical home for sale. So we're not talking luxury properties. We're talking just the median home that's available for sale today. Compared to last year, we are seeing an increase, and a significant one. Homes on the market for sale are up over 30% compared to a year ago. And if we look at the below median price point of $200,000 to $350,000, homes in that price category are up by 40%. So we are starting to see a bit of a turnaround, a bit of improvement, but from what is still a pretty dire situation for young people.
But you think that's where the logjam is starting to break at the entry-level housing, and that's maybe because those people who live in those homes have finally outgrown them and they can't put off kind of either moving up or moving out?
Potentially. So we don't have a lot of detail on who is listing those $200,000 to $350,000 homes, but we are seeing more of them, particularly in the South. So that is starting to turn things around and give shoppers on the market more opportunity. That said, as long as mortgage rates remain high, it is still going to be challenging for young people to navigate even those somewhat more affordable options. And I should also note, on a price per square foot basis, we're not necessarily seeing prices come down, but we're seeing a bit of a shift in what's for sale. So that is good news for someone looking for an entry-level home. They are seeing more availability in those more affordable price tiers, but it's still relatively expensive. Fortunately, we've talked a lot about the price of housing going up. We have also seen incomes go up. So that has been one bright spot. And in fact, over the last couple of months, we've seen incomes catch up and grow faster than the cost of buying a home. A lot depends on what happens with mortgage rates here, because it does mediate the buying power of households. But as incomes catch up, home prices can essentially move sideways and give incomes an opportunity to catch up and improve the affordability picture. But it's really going to be a twofold approach. We're going to need to see more construction in order to really make a break.
All right. So that was a lot to take down, guys. But if you've been with us for the past few weeks, months, it's almost been damn near a year. We've been saying, one, she ended with the construction crisis. There is not enough housing. It won't be anytime soon. Okay. So it's up to people actually like us, the people in this room, to help establish and build more housing. I don't know if you guys saw it today. Jerome Powell spoke. I think he was in like France or Italy, and he mentioned housing pricing is a sticky situation. He said it's puzzling, right? But the interest rates are too high. Why would you build right now? So that is one of the delays. Number two, the piece of the video got cut off. But I think the top five, Seth, correct me if I'm wrong, top four or top five markets were in places like California, where the average home was about $330,000. That was a starter home, actually. Actually, no,
right. They
the
were saying,
salary.
Yeah, they were saying to afford the median price home in San Francisco, you needed to bring home like
330,000.
Yeah, exactly.
330. So a
Yeah.
single person with minimum debt needs to make $330,000 to afford a house in California. If you guys don't think the housing prices are going to go up and the house can't be 500 or 600,000 where you're at, you're crazy.
Yep.
Wages will continue to increase. House prices will continue to increase. I'm a strong believer of that. We see the data. We've been saying it for a long time, and it's happening, right? A starter home used to be 120, maybe 150. You can't even find that anymore. Right now, a starter home is really about 249, 250. So,
and they actually said that those houses between the 200 to the 350, those are the ones that you're seeing a little bit of increase in inventory. And then they said, we don't know who's actually selling those, right? But those are the ones where you're seeing an increase. It just happens to be more of those. She went on to say that they're not seeing a change in the price per square foot.
Nope.
Like, so when they see these houses that are 200 to 350, more of them, especially in the South, that are coming onto the market, it's not that the prices are going down to fall into that group either. It's just the fact that the smaller homes are coming onto the market.
So, guys, like we've been saying, one, it's hard to find deals. We get it. That's why we're having this talk. We want to make sure that you find good deals, that they cash flow, that you know where to look for deals. And so that's kind of the basis of tonight's call. Seth, you want to go on to the next slide?
Hey, I got a couple questions. This is Antoine.
Yeah, go ahead, Antoine.
Yeah, I'm always trying to figure out like, okay, what are we not like looking at when it comes to investing? Like what we're not looking at and see if we can find that out and then maybe we can get some type of advantage. And listening to like this piece from CNBC, it just makes me think about, okay, what is another catalyst for people to sell their homes so we can get some increase in inventory besides building homes? You know, what's the other catalyst besides like an individual like myself to want to move up, like outside that? Because I think that
here, look, hold on. Let me answer that question before.
Well, I need to finish it real quick though.
Okay.
The piece I want to make sure that I drive home is that these people are locked in bare bone interest rates. And I don't think that they're coming up off of their properties knowing that they're never going to be able to get an interest rate like that before. So outside of, okay, I just got to get me a bigger home, that's going to trigger me to sell. But outside of that, what else can be a catalyst? Go ahead.
Sure. So typically the catalysts are two things. One, interest rates. Two, unemployment. Right? So yes, they have low interest rates, but job stability, our economy is strong right now. Right? So we don't have high unemployment, which is typically what happens in a recession. We have a decent amount of unemployment. We don't have that right now. And that's the problem with the economy. There's a poison pill in the economy, which is the low interest rates. When people bought their housing with fixed housing, the mortgages, some of them might have cheaper mortgages than it is to rent. So if they did sell, doesn't make any sense. Which most of the time, typically, this just hasn't really happened much in history, right? But now, not only do we have that poison pill, we have a strong economy. So typically right now, you'll see some layoffs. Tech jobs might have some layoffs. But you would see a lot more layoffs at this time. We're not technically in a recession. They're not calling it a recession because the job market is so strong. So that is typically the catalyst for something like this, is a weak job market. But I mean, people are finding, think about what the salaries are compared to some of the housing prices. Honestly, in most places, I think it's cheaper. Depending on what your mortgage is, it might be cheaper to own than it is to rent. Depending on when you got your mortgage. If you go get a mortgage now, it's probably cheaper to rent than it is to own. But if you got your mortgage over the past COVID era, pretty much, your house is pretty much, I would assume, cheaper to rent or cheaper to own than it is to rent.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think that the inventory is just going to be low for a long, long time.
Yeah. The only thing that shifts is the boomer generation, pretty much your parents, your grandparents moving out. And eventually, you know, downsizing. But if they sell, then they're selling with a ton of equity. Most of them own this was another part that got clipped on the video, but most of the people own their house outright.
It's interesting that you bring that up
40%.
because I hear that there are 10,000 boomers retiring every day. And I heard this from another podcast that was talking about how many businesses are about to be up for sale. But it's interesting to tie that into real estate inventory.
So guys, ladies and gentlemen, this is your chance. Like every era or every decade, every 20, 30 years, 40 years, 50 years, you get a chance to make something. And this is your chance in real estate to make something. If you look at the people who are buying, I mean, you have BlackRock, you have State Street, you have large corporations buying real estate. The new term is built to rent. Right? That is literally the new term in real estate, is built to rent. Not built to own, built to rent. So when you look at the next generation, they will be a generation of renters, right? And they will live. And honestly, when I look at the future, I see a bunch of people. If you guys have seen that Apple Vision Pro with people living in a small home and they have access to a movie theater and they can zone out. People will live in small homes like that and have access to digital AI or interface and live happily, right? The thing is, how will they make money, right? What's going to be the economic driver, and who will they pay to? So do you want to be somebody that's renting and paying a bill, or do you want to be someone that owns and at least make some money off it?
So another
That's how,
thing too, the government is famous for coming in and doing some type of assistance and some type of bailout or some type of whatever you want to call it, right? And that's where a lot of inflation and ups and downs in markets and stuff like that happen, is government getting involved in the economy when they don't
yeah.
necessarily think about it, right? And what a lot of leads to that is mainstream media like this putting something out there, and then the public decides this is a problem, and then that becomes part of voting, and then people get elected, and then they solve those problems, right? Well, all you hear about is the interest rates are high, and the interest rates are high. They're setting themselves up to be heroes by lowering interest rates. And to Antoine's point, when interest rates do go down and those folks can get into a decently comparable mortgage in the future, like there's pent up selling desire, right? There are people that are waiting to sell their house. It's our job now in this market to find the folks that are motivated, right? To find the deals right now. Moving forward, when they do what they're going to do by lowering the rates down and stuff like that, like the market is deals are gonna be everywhere, right? Right now, the job is to know where to look to find those deals now, so that when that happens, it's an added bonus more than anything.
Well said, Seth. Hopefully that answered your question, Antoine. Appreciate you asking. All right. So as Seth was saying, where to look, right? Where are we looking for deals? And I think it's very important before we get into that is to note that it doesn't matter what your situation. Me and Seth kind of had this talk earlier. If you don't have the capital, you need to have wholesaling in your bag, right? If you don't have the capital, say, okay, well, you should still be looking for deals and making a connection and making a network and then building the capital if you don't have the capital. At all times, whether you have it or not, look for deals. I don't care where you're at, where you're investing, look for deals.
So there's one place on this where to look that I want to point out that's not on here. And it's the MLS, whether that's Zillow or Realtor.com or whatever it happens to be, listings from the agent, this, that, the other, that's not included on this list, right?
Yeah.
You can absolutely buy deals on market and stuff like that. But in a market like today, especially, you need to look off market. And these are some of the ways that you can find it.
So we can just graze through these really quickly. And then, guys, tomorrow on a Wednesday Inner Circle call, if you guys want to discuss these, we'll be discussing one of Antoine's deals tomorrow. But if you guys want to hop in earlier, and then we can discuss, and dive deeper into this at 12. Networking events, huge. You guys are at one right now. This is a networking event. Call it what you want. It's a networking event. This is a way to find deals, make connections. Personal referrals, right? One of the easiest wholesale deals I've ever done was somebody that just came to me and was like, hey, I just want to sell my house, right? And it was like, okay, cool. And then I didn't buy single family houses. I sold to somebody else. That was an easy wholesale deal, though. Realtor connections. Who do you know? Who do the realtors know? Realtors always are famous for having what they call pocket listings, right? These are just those like backdoor, don't even get listed. Hey, I know a guy that can get it sold, or I know a guy that can get it bought. Makes a realtor's job a lot easier. Easy way to buy and find property.
Yeah.
Expired listings is another great one, or even listings that have been on market for a long time. One of my best deals was a listing that was on market for like 300 days. It just wasn't selling. It wasn't at the right price. At that point, the person just wanted to offload it. So expired listings are a great way. Paid outbound marketing, paid inbound marketing. I'm a big fan of inbound more than outbound, but paid inbound marketing, that's just generating the leads. And then I think next week, are you doing a wholesale call or 2 weeks, Seth?
Next week.
So next week, Seth will be talking about wholesaling, guys. And this is something that, like I said, everybody needs to have in their bag. You need to have it as part of your repertoire. Make sure you're on we can talk more about wholesaling, the basics of it, and then figuring out is how do you utilize this as part of your tool. Wholesalers, like we mentioned, wholesalers and Facebook groups, great resource. And again, marketplace, Craigslist, auctions, there are tons of places. There is no shortage of deals. And Seth, I don't know if it's even on here, but even driving for dollars.